Your dog has been at the water bowl 3 times since you finished dinner, and the trips outside to pee have basically doubled this week. That combination right there is one of the first things that makes a vet stop mid-sentence and start asking more questions. It usually isn't just one thing. Dogs carry a pattern with diabetes, and it tends to show up in order, starting so small that most people write it off as the heat, or a growth spurt, or just a thirstier week than usual. By the time we get to the last 2 signs on this list, you'll understand exactly why they're the ones that mean don't wait until tomorrow, call today. So keep count as we go, because with this one, the order matters almost as much as the signs themselves. If part of you feels like you should have caught this sooner, once you realize the water bowl has been emptying faster for a couple of weeks now, let that go. Early diabetes hides inside habits that already look normal. More water on a hot day, more begging at dinner, and separating a real pattern from an ordinary week is genuinely hard when you don't know what you're looking for yet. The fact that you're here, comparing this list against your own dog, instead of just hoping it's nothing, already puts you ahead of where most people are the day they first walk into a vet's office. There's also a piece of this that gets misunderstood a lot. A lot of people picture diabetes as something that only happens to an older, heavier dog who's been sneaking table scraps for years, so a younger or leaner dog gets a pass in their head. That's not really how it works. What's actually driving this is the pancreas losing its ability to make or properly use a hormone called insulin. And while extra weight and age do raise the odds, plenty of diabetic dogs are lean, active, and not even 7 yet. Worth remembering before you rule anything out. Here's the short version of what's happening inside, because it explains almost every sign on this list at once. Insulin works like a key card at a turnstile. It's what lets sugar move out of the blood and into the body's cells for energy. When the pancreas can't make enough of it, or the body stops responding to it the way it should, sugar backs up in the blood instead of getting where it needs to go, and the crowd just builds up outside the turnstile. The kidneys try to deal with that backup the way an overflowing sink deals with too much water. They flush the extra sugar out through urine, and water gets pulled along with it. That's the actual root of the water bowl, and the extra trips outside, not a coincidence, not the weather. And here's the part that trips people up. Even though the blood is flooded with sugar, the cells can't reach it, so it's a bit like a car sitting on a full lot with an empty tank. The body reads that as starving and starts burning fat and muscle for fuel instead, which is exactly why appetite goes up while the dog is still losing weight. Left alone long enough, that same sugar overload starts affecting the eyes and the immune system too, which is where a couple of signs further down this list come from. One sign by itself can mean almost nothing. A few of them together are more like a smoke detector going off, worth checking before there's an actual fire. So sign 1 is exactly where you'd expect, drinking more water than usual. A normal dog's water intake stays fairly steady day to day, maybe a small bump on a hot afternoon that settles back down by the next morning. What's different here is a new baseline that doesn't go back down, the bowl needing a refill far more often, sometimes doubling within a week without anything else changing at home. Sign 2 follows right behind it, and it's the one that actually gets people to pay attention, because more water in means more water has to come out. House-trained dogs can start having accidents, asking to go outside in the middle of the night, or leaving noticeably bigger puddles than usual. On their own, either of these could be nothing. Together, signs 1 and 2 are the strongest early combination on this entire list, and if you're already nodding along to both, that's worth writing down. If you've recognized either of those in your own dog, that's genuinely useful information, and it's exactly the kind of thing worth mentioning here in the comments, which one or 2, so other people watching can compare notes on their own dog too. And if this is helping so far, it helps a lot more people if you're subscribed, since it means this kind of thing keeps landing in front of tutors who need it, and a like does something similar. It just puts this in front of more dogs who could use the heads up. Sign 3 is where it starts getting a little confusing, because it looks like the opposite of a problem at first. The dog seems hungrier than usual, begging harder at meals or finishing the bowl faster, and yet the ribs or the waistline become more visible over a few weeks. That's the mechanism from a minute ago playing out in real time. Cells starving for fuel while the blood is flooded with sugar the body can't use. Then sign 4 shows up, and it's quieter than the first 3, which is exactly why people miss it. A dog who used to meet you at the door might start staying on the bed instead, or a walk that used to get him spinning in circles by the leash hook starts feeling more like an obligation than something he wants. An occasional off day is normal. Every dog has one. What matters is when that low energy sticks around for more than a few days in a row, especially stacked on top of the other 3. 4 signs in, and if 2 or more of those already sound like your dog, here's the part worth sitting with for a second. What you're noticing rarely stands alone. A dog who's drinking more, peeing more, eating more but losing weight, and dragging a little on walks isn't showing 4 separate problems. It's showing one bigger picture. And there are usually a few more pieces of that picture sitting in his day-to-day that are easy to miss when you're only looking for one thing at a time. That's actually the idea behind a free 2-minute quiz we put together. It takes everything going on with your dog, not just what's on this list, and maps it into that bigger picture, so you can see where the pieces connect and where to start. It doesn't replace a vet visit, and it won't diagnose or treat anything. That part always stays with your vet. What it does is help you walk into that visit with the full picture instead of one worry at a time. The link's in the pinned comment, or you can scan the QR code on the screen. Take it after this one though, because the sign that matters most on this whole list is still ahead. Picture a dog like a 7-year-old beagle. We'll call him Otis. His tutor noticed he'd been drinking more for about 2 weeks and figured it was just the summer heat until he started leaving puddles by the back door, something he hadn't done since he was a puppy. That was the detail that finally got her to book an appointment. A same-week vet visit and blood work confirmed his blood sugar was elevated, and with a plan built around insulin and monitoring under his vet's care, Otis was back to his normal energy within a few weeks. She said afterward that if she'd waited for a clearer sign, she'd have waited a lot longer than she should have. Which brings us to sign 5, and this is the one that tends to surprise people the most. Diabetic dogs can develop cataracts, sometimes fast enough that a tutor notices the eyes look slightly foggy in certain light within weeks rather than months. You might also notice the dog bumping into furniture he used to dodge without thinking, a door frame, the leg of a chair. Not every foggy-eyed dog is diabetic. Plenty of that is just normal aging, but paired with any of the first 4 signs, it's worth a mention at the vet. Sign 6 travels quietly alongside the others, repeat infections that keep coming back. Skin infections, ear infections, urinary infections that clear up with treatment and then return within a few weeks are common in diabetic dogs because high blood sugar makes it easier for bacteria to take hold and harder for the immune system to fight them off for good. If you've been back at the vet more than once this year for what feels like the same infection, that pattern alone is worth mentioning out loud, even if nothing else on this list quite fits yet. Here's sign 7, and it's the one that deserves your full attention if you've made it this far. An unusual sweet or fruity smell to the breath, or sometimes the urine. It's easy to dismiss, but that smell can mean the body has started burning fat for fuel hard enough to release byproducts called ketones, and that's a sign the situation may be moving past an early stage into something more urgent. And that leads straight into sign 8, the one this whole video has been building toward. Vomiting. Appetite that suddenly drops instead of staying elevated. Noticeable weakness, wobbliness, a dog who was eating and drinking more just days ago and is now barely interested in either. If you see that combination, especially stacked with the sweet smell from sign 7, that is not a schedule it for next week's situation. That's a call the vet today, maybe even tonight situation. It's worth saying plainly here because a home remedy has no place in this conversation. Never give a dog insulin, any human diabetes medication, or adjust a dose without a vet directly guiding you, since getting that wrong can cause dangerously low blood sugar. Don't withhold food to manage weight on your own either. Fasting a dog whose blood sugar is already unstable can make things worse fast, not better. None of the 8 signs on this list are a diagnosis by themselves. A blood glucose test at the vet is the only thing that actually confirms what's going on, and that's true no matter how many of these boxes your dog checks. It helps to see the whole arc laid out, because none of these 8 signs happen in isolation. Left alone, the earliest ones, the extra water and the extra bathroom trips, tend to lead into the weight loss and low energy over a matter of weeks. From there, the eyes and the immune system start absorbing the strain, which is where the cataracts and the repeat infections come from. Kept unmanaged long enough, the kidneys and the liver end up working overtime processing all that extra sugar too, and that's the direction sign 7 and sign 8 are pointing toward. The reverse is true as well, and it's the more hopeful half of this. Dogs who get diagnosed and managed properly tend to see their energy come back, their coat improve, and those repeat infections finally stop cycling, often all around the same time, because the whole body was working overtime around that one imbalance. There's also a smaller thing worth knowing, since a few of these 8 signs overlap with other conditions entirely. Thyroid issues and kidney disease can both cause more thirst on their own too. That's exactly why the goal here was never to diagnose from a screen. It's to notice the combination, write it down, and hand the full list to a vet instead of mentioning only the one sign that stood out the most. The pattern is what actually narrows things down. The most common mistake isn't ignoring these signs completely, it's actually explaining them away one at a time. The extra water gets blamed on a heat wave, the extra hunger gets chalked up to a growth spurt, or a new bag of food the dog seems to like more. The tiredness gets written off as getting older. Each explanation sounds reasonable on its own, and that's exactly the trap, because a vet isn't looking at any one of these signs in isolation either. They're looking at whether 3 or 4 of those reasonable explanations are all showing up in the same dog during the same few weeks. That's usually the moment a coincidence stops being a coincidence. So here's what actually helps between now and that vet visit, and none of it involves guessing at a treatment. Start a simple 2-line log tonight, morning and evening, just noting water bowl refills and bathroom breaks. 3 days of that turns a vague feeling into something a vet can act on the moment you walk in, instead of you trying to remember on the spot whether it's really been worse lately. Keep the feeding schedule consistent in the meantime too, and hold off on switching foods or adding new treats right before the appointment, since sudden diet changes can throw off what the blood work shows. If you've got a smaller dog, it's worth tracking the water in an actual measuring cup rather than eyeballing the bowl, because small increases disappear easily in a small bowl. With a medium or large dog, a water bottle or jug emptying in half the usual time is often the first real clue a tutor notices, well before anything dramatic happens. And here's the line to actually act on, not just remember. 2 or more of these 8 signs together. Get blood work booked this week, not at the next annual visit. Sign 7 or sign 8 on their own. That's not a this week thing anymore, that's a today thing. One more thing worth knowing: if there are multiple dogs in the house, track each one separately, even if they share a water bowl. It's easy to notice the bowl emptying faster and assume it's the bigger or thirstier dog of the 2, when it's actually the quieter one drinking most of it. If you can, separate the water bowls for a few days just to see which dog is actually driving the change, since that detail alone can save a vet visit's worth of guessing. And it's worth saying, none of this is what gets marketed to you at the pet store. The shelves are full of joint chews, calming treats, weight management formulas, with vague promises on the label, and almost none of it teaches you to notice the boring stuff: water bowl refills, bathroom breaks, a bowl emptying faster than usual. There's no product to sell around a 2-line log in a notebook, which is probably exactly why nobody's telling you to keep one. It's not that anyone's hiding something sinister, it's just that the useful thing here doesn't come with packaging. Your vet isn't part of that problem either, by the way. They're the one person in this whole picture who actually benefits from you showing up with real notes instead of a vague feeling. since it means they can move straight to the test instead of playing 20 questions first. Diabetes tends to show up more often in dogs somewhere around 7 to 10 years old, though plenty of younger dogs get diagnosed too, and a handful of breeds, small terriers among them, tend to turn up in these cases more than others. None of that changes what to actually do though. Any breed, any age, the 8 signs are the same 8 signs, and the response is the same response. So run back through it once more, quick. More water, more trips outside, more appetite paired with less weight, less energy than usual, eyes that look a little foggier than they used to, infections that keep circling back, that sweet smell on the breath, and vomiting or sudden weakness stacked on top of any of it. 2 or more together, and this week is the week to call and get blood work done, not someday, not at the next annual visit. If any of that matched your own dog, drop the number in the comments, 1 through 8, whichever one hit first. It takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps other people scrolling through these comments recognize the same thing in their own dog. If this helped, subscribing means more of this keeps landing in front of tutors who need it, and that free 2-minute quiz is still sitting in the pinned comment or on the QR code on your screen whenever you're ready for it. Whatever you find out, a dog who's drinking a little more and asking to go out a little more isn't a dog who's letting you down or being difficult. He's telling you something in the only language he has, and you just spent the last few minutes learning how to actually hear it. Go check that water bowl.